I'm like you when you posted that Sankova, yes, we need to look back. We have to only look back to last year to see how many kids and families and adolescents were suffering from mental health and depression, to say, then we need to be declaring some kind of state of emergency on this. The governor did it last year.
You said what?
Statewide. The governor did it statewide last year. So why wouldn't Spokane City do it?
Wow. It's, man, like, hey, y'all. It's me, Stephanie, and Phillip. We're up here having a conversation. You guys, I am so excited to share what's going on. And so, you know me, I'm putting all my little platforms together. And I'm going to send you a invite as well, Phillip, so it can be on your page. Awesome. Yeah, I literally, when I read Sankova, I just shared, if anybody knows what master classes are, they're online and you get access to all of these like stars and philosophers. And I did the Cornell West training, and
Dr. Cornell West.
Dr. Cornell West.
Come on, yeah.
He like, when I say he like changed my life with that piece, changed my life. Like, he made the conversation about what does it mean to be human. And that's basically what it was about. And it was looking at all of these social justice issues, reforms. I mean, and it really made you think about, what are you doing, right? Like, as an individual, like, and how do you see people? Like, are you seeing them based off of their political stance, or, their spiritual stance, education, class, race? Like, he dug in. He went all the way in. I was just like, I was not ready for that at all, but it was such a good conversation. For those that are coming in, I want to welcome you guys to the Learning Project. We're going to be having some great conversation today about a project that Phillip has put together, working on, and I'm definitely supporting, and I'm hoping that you will support too, because we need change in our community. And listen, if you don't live in the Spokane community, that's cool. I hope it inspires you to make change in your community. Yes. We were just talking about Sankofa. Like, this is like a term, a word, like everybody has this thing, like, what's your word for the year? And Sankofa really just resonated with me. It's like this returning back. It's like this journey that I've been on for a while. And I couldn't really figure out how to describe it or what word I could describe it. So I am very excited about this. And I'll talk more about Sankofa later on. If you had a word for the year, Phillip, what is your word?
Ooh,
Boo boo, came loaded.
I would probably use the word verb, meaning to describe an action, right? A state of occurrence, because I think we need to, as my mother has told me many a time, stop talking about it and be about it. So verb would be my word. Let's take that action, that next step, whether it be driving a petition to get a declaration, whether that be launching your own podcast as you've done, Stephanie, to help educate others. It's an action that we're taking. So my word is going to be verb, and of course that happens to be my most favorite Schoolhouse Rock character. The brother that was verb.
Oh man, this is so awesome. Like, I love the fact that you use verb, and it's all about action, right? You guys, like, we have got to make action in our community. And you had sent me a message. You're like, hey, I just want to share this, and I'm like, we got to get on a podcast. Listen, I am not afraid to share something I believe in, something that I think is going to make a difference. We cannot look to just like politicians, governors, to make change. Like, leadership happens in our community. And I have been reading Dwayne Mack's Black Spokane. I'm going to be doing a whole thing on this in February. You're going to see all these posts that are quotes from his book. I don't know where he is, and I've been literally trying to connect with him. And if he sees this, I want you to know that you are welcome to this space to come and talk about this book and your journey about writing this book. But I think we need to know what our community has gone through in order to move forward. So we're going to be focusing a lot on about that in Black History Month. But this right here, the mental health crisis petition that you created, it is encompassing everybody, because it impacts everybody, whether you're a friend, you're a sister, you're a mother, you're a father, you are a teacher. This is impacting everyone. So Phillip, I am going to take this little music down. You guys, if you do not know what Uppbeat is, please check it out. If you are looking to find like music clips or any of that stuff for your content, it's super cheap, and you don't have to worry about when you play it like during your Facebook post, like, you know, them taking it down because you don't own the rights to that music. So you just copy and paste a little link and you give that person credit, and it's right there, and it's awesome, and it's really easy and user friendly. So Phillip, tell us what is going on and what are you working on?
Well. First of all, thank you for having me. I've been a fan. I've been standing for the Learning Project since you launched it, and it has been, because I've been watching all of the videos, a learning experience for me, and it really has helped me to take action. Just like you're taking action in elevating the voices of those in our community. What I've been working on really is this crisis of mental health that's been occurring not only in our nation, because we know it is occurring in our nation, but really here at home in the city of Spokane. And I was at a forum this past week where they were talking really about the issue of homelessness and some of the underlying root causes of that. And we know that one of those is poverty, one of those is lack of housing, but one of those may be some underlying mental health issues that are coexisting with individuals. And I thought about this, and how many times I've had conversations with friends and family members that are experiencing, my family included presently, and how we are not giving it the attention it needs, and we've spoke before, Stephanie, that in the Black community, there's this stigma of even reaching out for help as it relates to mental health. And when we do that, it leads to even more problematic, negative coping skills. We're coming off the heels of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday. And one of the things that a lot of folks don't know or don't recall is that Dr. King attempted suicide as a young man.
I did not know that.
Yes, ma'am, before the age of 13. Okay. So even the good Reverend Doctor struggled with issues of depression and those kind of things. Just last year, our governor declared a state of emergency regarding our adolescents in the state of Washington.
Yes.
In the state of, I still think it's in existence today.
Yes.
But we haven't, as a city, focused on that. Now we passed resolutions on climate change, on human trafficking, on homelessness. We need to, as elected officials, show our constituents, show the constituents, where they stand on positions such as our mental health crisis. And it affects things across the board, Stephanie. And so I thought, well, let me use my verb, and take action. So what I did was start a petition to have our elected officials declare through resolution, right? Which is all the resolutions is their stated positions on a matter, on an issue, to declare a state of mental health crisis in the state of Spokane.
So let's put a pause on that, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that are like, man, this is amazing. I would love to do something like this. Or what does it take? We're going to backtrack. We're going to take a learning moment here. What does it take to create a petition? Because some people may not really understand what it looks like and how does it work, or it may seem like this is too complicated. We can't make change in our community unless somebody like you, Phillip, does it, because I don't know how to do this. So what does it take to make a petition?
Yeah, first of all, it takes an individual with passion about an issue that they feel is not getting the desired or the required attention that's needed. Then you bring collective bodies together, and the great thing about technology, just like we're using today with your podcast, Stephanie, is there's programs out there that can assist you.
Yes.
Like you talked about Uppbeat, there is change.org.
Yes.
That helps you create these petitions out there. And really, a petition is just a gathering of collective voices that share the same idea that then we send off to the change makers, right? In our case, our elected officials, our council, our mayor, our commissioners, to say, look, a body of your constituents, and you can have whatever number you want, right? If you're trying to create legislation, there's a threshold number that you need. It's a percentage of the voters that voted in the last particular election. But this is not that. We're not looking for an ordinance. We're looking just for a declaration, a resolution. So, my targeted goal when I first started this was to get 100 people on board. But in the 36 hours that we've had it running, we've got almost 90 now. So we'll get over that threshold. Awesome. And then the goal is then to go in front of council if they're present, or maybe it's virtual, to say, hey, look, your constituents, my neighbors, my family, my friends, your family, your friends, your neighbors are concerned about this issue, concerned enough to sign on to this petition to say, we need you to craft and in fact, I crafted a resolution for them.
Wow.
So all they have to do is cut and paste, add some commentary of their own, and then pronounce that at a council meeting, right? Wow. So it's on record. And that's where we start. And that leads the change in these processes, because we have to be the voice in case, sometimes we're not getting that voice from our elected officials, some of which ran on a platform of helping mental health in our city.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you shared that, because I think a lot of times when we come to this place where we're like, oh, well, this is going on, like some people may not understand, like, how do you actually make that happen? And I want to know more about this petition. So what are the things that you are specifically focused on? What are you saying we need in our community? What everybody else is agreeing to. I'm looking at the page, you guys. I'm going to show you the page in a minute. So, and I'm going to be signing this live, okay? Because I definitely agree with this. There's so much opportunity for us as a community to get involved, and we have got to be more creative in the mental health space. We have got to be more creative in how we see change. If we have the opportunity to do that, and we come together collectively, we develop new programs, trainings, so that people can hit the floor running. This is where we're going to see more people creating a culture within our community that I believe we haven't seen before, and we are really needing and wanting to help people, and as well as help some of the people that are within our families find resources that can be activated right now. So tell us about the petition. What are you focused on?
Yeah. So in the petition, what we're saying is we're asking the city to proclaim a mental health crisis in the city of Spokane, because we know the statistics, the data is out there that our youth, adolescents, family, throughout this pandemic, right, have seen just an exacerbation of what has previously existed, right, prior to the pandemic. And that is increased visits in the emergency rooms for mental health emergencies, including suicidal ideation and attempts. I met with a friend just this morning, Stephanie, that is experiencing this with their own son. The inability to get that child into services for some 90 days out.
Wow.
Right. Wow. The lack of resources in the community, although there are some resources out there, but the lack of more resources for them, and resources that are interwoven into a primary care policy. Right now, healthcare and mental health kind of run parallel, right? Unless you have a really good health policy that it's interwoven in there. But we need to create spaces where not only is it early intervened on, but it's in schools, it's in community centers, it's in families, it's in daycares, etc. So specifically what we're asking is, because we have a throng of ARP funds in our city right now, 100 million, something to that tune. The initial portions have gone out for the arts, for our parks and daycare. Wonderful. But we want some of those resources funneled to help increase funding to ensure families have access to evidence-based mental health services. We want it to be included such things as screening, diagnosis, appropriately and culturally sensitive treatment.
Wow.
Having maybe providers, associates, peer counselors that look like those seeking the care. That's important, right? Right to note. We want the council, they can do this through ordinances to address any regulatory hurdles or challenges that people may have to getting access to these services, right? We want them to fully fund community-based systems that connect families to resources and care and interventions, both at home, in the community, and school, right? Promote and fund trauma-informed services. These are your peer counselors that can really help out there. Think about accelerating strategies such as you talked about today that are innovative in a training program. It doesn't have to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It can be those peers counselors. It can be those mental health associates, as they're calling them, that can really help bridge that gap between those things, and really, address the ongoing challenges of the children and the adolescent shortages of bed spaces, step down programs. Excelsior has great programs. There's a program called Rise with Providence. That's a good program. These short stay stabilizations and community response units, increase the funding and the staffing for that, right? This is what we'd like to see out of that. And by having a resolution spoken, proclaimed by our elected, it creates accountability from their constituents to them as well. That's what we're looking for.
When you're like talking, my brain, like anybody who knows me, my brain goes like 1,000,000 miles per hour, because you can literally see these services unfold and how they can really help people, help our community in a very unique way. I want to just throw this out here. So there is a statistic that was done, a study that was done by I believe it was Harvard University, and they did it on African-American and peer support specialists. So they found that the individuals that they did a study on, I can't remember the amount of the number. However, they found that when a person of color actually would use counseling and use a peer support specialist, their chances of recovery and development and health and fullness increase something like 35 to 40%. I'll have to send you the link. But I was so touched by that, because a lot of times we look at mental health in one way, which is we see somebody sitting on a couch talking to someone, telling them their problems, right? But we know that many of our cultural pieces, and I want everybody to start thinking about culture, not just your color of your skin. Everybody has a culture. Everybody does certain things in their family due to just the unfolding of history, right? And sometimes we do things that we don't even know why we do them, but grandma did it, and then her grandma did it, and her grandma did it, and we just do it, right? Or we learn it from somebody that becomes part of our family, may not be a blood relative, but they become part of our hemisphere, and they build our culture. So sometimes when we are at the hairdresser and we're getting our hair done and we're talking to someone and they're able to help us pull down those shields, or you're getting your nails done, or you are playing basketball, or you are sitting at a lounge, sitting down, and you've been able to relax. There's so many different ways to help people open up and talk about what they're going through, but we haven't really found this creative space to welcome this type of care and this type of counseling. It's not counseling, but it's support.
It's support, but it is counseling. It may not be traditional counseling, but it's counseling. It is healing. We spoke about this our last time we talked, and I talked about a program called the Confess Project, right out of Atlanta. That just what you spoke about. It is getting our barbers, our hairdressers trained up to be able to be that bridge, to be able to show folks that it's okay to talk about how you're feeling, right? You're not laying on a couch, right? You're not expending medical funds for this hour session, but you are being able to open up and be your true self where you're at. My brother out of LA is creating a bus that's going to bring both counselors, professional and peer counselors into the LA community
I love
to
it.
offer those. See, these are those inventive things that we here in the city can do,
Yes, yes.
to create that environment. And that's what you're
Yeah,
speaking about, Stephanie.
yeah.
That's what we'd hope to really engage in with some of this declaration.
I have a question. This is not a question I was planning to ask at all, but why do you think our community lacks that inventive piece when it comes to creating medical support or support systems? Because right now, okay, you got to basically not have your head in a hole right now. The homeless population has increased. People are dealing with poverty at the highest level. Visibility.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody else about this, and they were actually saying this has always been here. The pandemic just broke the whole thing. Like it broke the bridge. So why do you think we are struggling, or maybe we're lacking? I don't even know what it is. Like, why don't we have these creative services available in our community? Because I always hear people say they want them, but they're never sustainable and they're not here.
That is as complex as the issue of mental health or homelessness. But I would say this, Stephanie, a lot of times we get caught up in this intractable, dogmatic adherence to our own ideologies, right? So if Stephanie were to offer something, if Phil were to offer something that's counter to what we believe in, we push back against it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this is true. And this is no slight to our government, municipal, county, or state, in that I think sometimes we get fascinated in the process of a program versus the success of a program. You understand what I'm saying? If me and you and those listeners can say homelessness has been here all the time.
Yeah.
But something ain't changed. Well, if we say, well, we're working on this housing first model and it's the best model out there. If we haven't seen the success bear out based on that, maybe we should explore an opportunity to do something different or combined with that to make some effective change. So I think the struggle is, when you have gatekeepers of the resources to really affect change, and we are not there. We common citizens, you and I, maybe even citizens that look like you and I, don't have access to seats at those tables to help organize and make change. Change remains in effect because the process seems to be working.
Wow.
Right? Versus the results. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It makes perfect sense, because I use this analogy with a lot of people that I just like collaborate with, and they're in the beginning stages of like developing and growing their business. And the first thing I say to them is, don't get caught up on the business plan. Like, literally figure out what you want to do and put it out there and develop your business plan along it, because that's for some people. Some people, they need the business plan. That's what it is. But some people are working on their business plan and it's year 5, meaning they have never put themselves out there because they're not sure if it's going to work or not. And they're worried about like the backlash, like if people are going to say something, or if they're going to feel disappointed within themselves. Like, being a creative medical community comes with taking risk, and it comes with putting out there and making mistakes and figuring out what we need to do and revamping. And I love what you're talking about, all of these different services that need to be developed, all of the different pieces that we're missing within our community. And I know that was a loaded question, but I just wanted to put that out there for everybody to really think about, because it's not like people are not asking for this stuff, but it goes back to the same thing that I talk about a lot of times, which is some people, they come into the community, they create these resources, and they die immediately because we're not giving it enough visibility. We're not having enough conversation. We don't know about it. There's not a hub for us to come together as a community and say, oh, learn about this resource, this resource, this resource, this resource. There's not enough conversation that's encompassing these things. So
and sometimes they predicated on income generation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not about how much money you can make.
Yes.
It's about how many lives you can impact, right?
Yes.
You want to be rich in dollars and cents, or rich in the impact you are making in folks' lives, right? And we have to not be concerned about, is my idea perfect, right? but is my idea workable? Right.
Yes.
And maybe someone takes a portion of that idea. Maybe I take a portion of their ideas, and maybe we work together to really have impact versus it needs to be exclusively my idea. If you ain't flying my banner, I don't get down with you.
Yes.
That's the problem that we have so often, Stephanie. You know, if you're not riding with my flag, my banner, then I'll mess with you. Right. When in fact, we should all be riding together, because these issues are community issues, right? Not just a singular issue. These issues, as you talked about earlier, may not be about culture as it's narrowly defined. It may be about culture being built on the beliefs, the mindsets that create us to jump to conclusion instead of really sitting back and going, hold up, why am I thinking that way?
Yes.
What belief sets made me move or think this way? And maybe I should start questioning those.
Yes. Yes.
Because if it's the way Auntie always did it, maybe it's not right in 2022.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
If this way my uncle always got down, it may not be right for 2022.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so start to challenging those narratives and those things, not make it a political ideology, not make it a racial or ethnic or Southfield, West Side, Valley. Make it a community collaborative effort and start challenging those assumptions, right?
Yes,
it doesn't have to be perfect for it to work.
Absolutely. Oh, y'all, I was trying to hold back because y'all know I get loud on my podcast. I'm like, yes. But let me tell you, what you just said is so important because we talked about earlier before we jumped on the podcast. You might have heard a little bit when you came on, you guys. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be human? And what does it mean to serve one another? Not in the way that we're in a negative connotation, but how can we help our community be better? And also not just be better, but have resources that make it better. That say, you know what, this is an individual thing and we see you, we hear you, and here's a resource that can help you get to where you want to go. We shouldn't be in a situation where we are saying, you know what, we don't have this resource, so you're going to have to go to Arizona, or you're going to have to go to California, or you're going to have to go somewhere else because we don't have the resources. We have an amazing community where you have like 6 colleges here. And I'm like, people are graduating every year, every quarter, every semester, and these people aren't staying here. And they're going to take their resources and their knowledge somewhere else. And I talk about this term a lot, brain drain, which is you have a community of people that are getting educated, and instead of dumping the knowledge back into the community so they can build those resources for their community, they take those resources, they take that knowledge, and they drain it to somewhere else. So this is the brain drain analogy. And as much as I want to say I coined this, I did not. This is someone else's that I learned a long time ago when they were talking about students that were coming over internationally. Instead of going back into their communities to put in education and giving back, they were leaving, coming to America and putting the resources back into the areas that they were projecting. So this is kind of the same thing.
There you go. You're right.
We have these amazing people that are needing that have solutions, but we cannot keep them here, and they don't stay here for many different reasons, right? And I believe exactly what you're talking about is gatekeeping. We're not developing the next generation. We're like, when I think about mental health, who else would basically be able to talk to another teen, but we don't value mental health. We don't value social and emotional development after early childhood education. Like after early childhood education, you don't have a whole section of social and emotional development skills that you're working on continuously. Once you hit primary school, you are doing, your math, your reading, your writing. If we value social and emotional development, it should be in every aspect of the educational system. And we should be making room for that so that students know how to not only identify it, but help a student and ask for help and all of these different pieces.
And I would say this, Stephanie, there are wonderful people. Dr. Crump with Spokane schools, who I've worked with in the past, he understands that our students are struggling, coming through this pandemic,
Yes.
coming back to in-person learning, then getting shifted back to online learning, then back to in-person learning. He's helping to increase the number of counselors that are in our school system, because he's seeing that suicidal ideation, that suicidal talk, that depression, that anxiety. So we need to support and celebrate those. And how does the city help to incentivize growing that population? I happen to work for a wonderful employer at Gonzaga that recognizes this importance, and they offer mental health first aid training free of charge to their staff, because they recognize the importance of that. How can the city then provide more funding and for training for such as that in different areas of our community, whether it be community resource centers, whether it be early childhood education, whether it be daycare resources? This is what I'm talking about. And this is why, if the city our elected expresses their positions on mental health by declaring this a crisis, it's telling us, you and I, their constituents, that it matters to them. And they're willing to take whatever steps, including using some of these ARP funds to help fund some of these things we're talking about today.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, let me show you guys this page. I am loving this conversation so much. Okay. So you guys are seeing all my other pages. Yeah, that's how that's going, y'all. Okay. All right. So this is the page right here. The link is listed down below. And I am going to sign my name here because I definitely support this. And I am signing the petition. I've already read it, you guys. So just to give you a heads up. So I want to go back here. I'm going to backtrack here. So I want you to see this. So first of all, we have 100. It says, let's get to 100. It shows like a little bar here. It goes over what this petition is all about. And then it shows the people that are signing this. So, and they're saying why they believe in this petition. And I'm going to do mine a little bit later here after I get off live here. I don't want you guys to have to be watching me type up what I want to type. So, but I am so glad that we've had this conversation, and I hope somebody is absolutely touched by this conversation and you guys understand the importance of making change locally. I think it's important for us to know collective numbers, collective data, but when it comes to making real change that you see, feel, breathe, and it's tangible, like that's where this comes in. And it's not enough to say, you need help and you need to seek out help for your mental health, but it would be great to say, you know what? I know somebody that can actually help you with this. Let me get you some steps. And you know what? If you want, I can go with you, or I can do an introduction, or I can three-way in a call. Like, there are so many ways that we can support one another. And all we have to do is take the opportunity and take the step to understanding the pieces that need to take place and support petitions and laws that are making change in our community. But when all else fails, show up. Like, if there's not a law, if there's not a policy, show up. And that is the hardest thing. Like, that's the one thing that I learned from my mom. I'll never forget. I don't know if I've ever even shared this like outwardly at all, but my mom, she used to do women's ministries, and she used to work with a lot of single moms, and she had just like been on her own for a little while. We didn't have a lot of money. And at this time, like, we didn't have a lot of food in our pantry. And one of the ladies at church was like, I don't have any food for me and my kids. And my mom gets up and packs all these groceries in a bag from our house. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? She was like, oh, I'm gonna go give sister so-and-so this food. And I'm like, why are you doing that? We don't have any food in the house. And she said, let me tell you right now, she said, I got enough to make chicken and dumplings, and that's what we're gonna make for this week. But right now she needs this, and we're gonna support her, and we're gonna show her that when she feels like she's alone, she's not alone, and somebody will be there for her. And that moment taught me something about showing up for people. And even when you don't have anything, there's something that you still can give, even if it's a conversation, it's a resource, it's a connection.
Yes.
And we've got to do better as a community, and a community that loves one another and understands that everybody's going to be different. Like you were saying, everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have different stance. But at the end of the day, are we going to show up? And that is what I'm asking my community to do, is to support things that are showing up in a positive way. And it's not about the right or the left or the red or the blue. This is all about our community coming together and saying, if you do not make the change, if you don't create the resources, I am going to create it, and I'm going to do it with Phillip. So I just want to say, thank you so much for just like sending that to me. You guys, you know how I am. If I see something that I absolutely love and excited about, I want to bring you on and share what you're doing. Phillip, can people reach out to you on your page and all that good stuff if they have additional
Absolutely. And I would really encourage them to reach out to their elected officials too, both here locally and at state level. There's some really good legislation going through our legislature currently. Senate Bill 5638, I believe. Awesome. It's what we talked about. It would allow people applying to become, social worker associates, mental health counselor associates, marriage and family therapy associates, to really be able to be in there and gain some licensure to be able to help their community. House Bill 1890, right? It instructs the Children and Youth Behavioral Network Group to develop strategic plans to examine the availability of youth mental health services statewide. We talked about this offline, right? If the services are such that once they reach a certain age, you can cut them loose, how is that really going to help them change, right?
Not at all.
And Senate Bill 5645 that's going through right now, which really helps to assist that outpatient treatment that we've talked about, right? With mandating assistance with care. So, reach out to your elected officials, reach out to me on my social media profile. They're public. Let's engage in collective, I don't call it grassroots, I call it grass tops efforts to really try to affect change in our community. Be the voice, because sometimes we have to be.
Yes, absolutely. Oh man, this conversation was so good for me today, y'all. I don't know about you. I don't know what you're doing, where you're going, but I'm going to ask you to share this conversation. I'm going to ask you to just take time to read through this petition and say, how can I make a difference? How can I make a change? How can I do something great today? This is your way of showing up today. And so share. There's going to be a YouTube link to this. It is going to have all of the information about the petition. So feel free to share it. No, I'm not going to say feel free. Share this. We need you to share this. We want to show our community that we are invested in making change and really addressing the mental health crisis. Phillip, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. I love everything that you are involved in, and you are doing some great things. And I hope to really see this flourish and bloom. And if you need anything from me, I'm here.
Well, I would say one thing before we get off. I know you're going to be having a session coming up about the experiences of particular Black folks in the healthcare industry. The mental health is part of the healthcare industry. So show up for that too, my friends, and voice your comments. They might be consistent with this petition, right? Because the experiences are the same, right? You can't separate medical health and experience from mental health experiences. They're one and the same, and they should be inextricably bound.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that plug. So if you guys are not busy on Wednesday, we're going to be opening up a conversation around prenatal care, postpartum care, mental health. Men and women are invited to this. The reason why we are having this conversation is we are partnering with WSU on this initiative to learn about people's stories and how we can improve our healthcare system. If you don't say anything, we can't make change. And so it's a small group. There's only 10 tickets right now. We only have, I think, 5 left or something like that. So please feel free to just click on the link. I'll add the link right below here. and join us for that conversation and share your experiences and pass it along. So thank you so much, Phillip. Thank you, everybody. I am so excited for today. I hope your Monday goes well. And if it's not going well, grab a cup of tea, take a couple breaths, maybe take a walk out in this cold weather, wake up some of those brain cells, and just know that things will get better. We are going to do as much as we can in our community to make a change. And thank you again, Phillip. And until next time, you guys, see you later. Bye.